Hey there, my fellow designers and creatives. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another video in the super ultimate guide to design systems. In this video, we're going to go ahead and finally start creating some of our important major components. We're going to start off by creating the top hero card. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now, we're going to go ahead and create this card. Now, we already have a couple of elements. We already have the navigation bar. It's easy to get the status bar. We just have to get it from a UI kit, but there are a couple of things to think about. And then we have this one, which is basically a local atom. We're going to create this as well. Should be super simple and straightforward. And the last element is the image. Now we're going to create the image as an image atom. It's going to be a global atom because this image is going to be used in multiple types of components. So we need to make it a global atom. Now there's something that's very interesting about this particular image, and I'm going to explain what that is. Now this is from an iPhone 10 frame, right? And the width of that is 375 pixels. But the screenshot I have, I took it from my iPhone, which is iPhone 13, and it has a width of 390 pixels. Now, why is this important? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle, and I'm just going to go ahead and just try to, get the size correctly over here and just match it to the photo that we have. All right. Perfect. Now, if I take this and I put it on the other one, all right, which is the iPhone 13, which has a width of 390, you can see here that it's not really moving edge to edge, right? The width is also different. The height is also different. But if I hold down shift and try to scale it proportionally, right? And I'm just going to scale it proportionally. You can see that it's almost a one-to-one match at a proportional level, which basically means that this image or this component, when I increase the width, the height also changes, which means it's changing the size proportionally. And this is common in tons of apps. If you take YouTube, for example, all the thumbnails are edge to edge, right? Which means when designers are designing, as you increase the screen width or decrease the screen width, the component also should automatically change the width and height, but at the same time maintaining the aspect ratio. Now the problem with Figma is that we can't achieve that effect, right? We can either increase width or we can increase height, but we can't change it proportionally, right? Now, of course, I can hold down shift and change it, right? But this is not how we're supposed to be changing things. What I'm trying to say is, let's say we set the width of this to be 375 as usual. And if I come here and change the width to 390, all right, you can see it's increasing over here, right? But that's only because I've locked this. But when you add auto layout, things are going to get a lot more complicated. So let's go ahead and create this. Now I'm going to start off by creating this component. Okay. So I'm going to set it to 375 for now. Okay. And I'll come over here and just try to make sure that it's the exact same height again. All right. Come over here and just increase it. Yep. Okay. I'm going to go to Unsplash and get an image. So I'm going to go to plugins and then search for Unsplash and just get a nice image. All right. Click on run. And I'm going to say mansion. All right. And I'm just going to click over here. Oh, this seems to have the Unsplash Plus logo. So I don't want that. I'm just going to get something normal. So probably going to get this. Okay. And I'm going to select this. I'm going to play Option Command C to copy all the properties. And I'm going to click here to paste the thing. So it's just a frame with the image. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the plugins. And I'm going to find a plugin called as Lock Aspect Ratio. All right. Let me see if I can find it correctly. Yeah, so it's called Lock Aspect Ratio. And all you want to do is run the plugin. Okay. When you run the plugin, it does some stuff. All right. And now if you see over here, I can no longer, constrict the properties over here, right? I can no longer sort of connect them together. Now what that means, if I scale it and I'm not holding down shift, I'm just scaling it like this, you can see that the aspect ratio is maintaining. I'm not doing it from the corner. I'm doing it from the right side, as you can see over here. And this is exactly how we want this image atom to be. Now we have a lot of layers over here, as you can see over here, right? And I'm going to delete some of the layers which I don't really think we need, right? So I'm going to start off by deleting this rectangle layer. So I'm just going to copy the image, right? Because we need the image. I'm going to copy that, delete it, and then click on the main frame and then paste it. We can delete the image layer. I'm going to delete a couple of layers and see if we actually need them or we can get rid of them. I think if I delete this one, does it still work? No, it doesn't work, right? So I'm going to bring that back. What if I delete this one? It doesn't work, yeah. So we need these two layers. I'm going to lock this, right? And here, I'm going to call this image, okay? So now this becomes our image atom. So we'll come over here and make this into a component. Now this is going to be our global atom. We're going to have multiple variants of this image. We're going to have multiple aspect ratios. That's what I mean, right? And we're going to be using this image in so many other different types of components, right? So for now, I'm just going to call this a local atom. Now, I want to make sure that all my images have a width of 375 pixels, right? That's what I'm going to be setting it to. Now, the next thing is we have this element, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and quickly make this element. This is going to be a local atom because we're going to be using this only in this hero card component, all right? So I'm going to press T on my keyboard. I'm going to press 1/22. Oops. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to set Airbnb serial app. Okay, I'll come over here and paste that. Now we're going to set it to medium, and that should be fine. Now the font size of this is 12. All right. And the line height, if I click on it, you can set it. You can see that the default line height that comes with the font is 16. And we want to make sure that everything is a multiple of 4, right? And I think this is fine. So 12 and 16 is fine. We're going to leave that as it is. I'm going to press Shift A to create an auto layout. Okay. And I'm going to reduce the height of this a bit. All right. So if I come over here and place this on top, this is looking good. All right. Now, if I set it to 3, you can see that it fits well. But the problem is I don't really like the number 3 because it's not a multiple of 4. And even the height here is 22, which is not a multiple of 4. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 4. All right. I'm going to set that to 4. Right. And what about the left and right padding? Now, I can come here and reduce the width of this to be 8. Like we want multiples of 4. But then you can see that we're getting too much of a difference over here, right? We're losing out on a lot of space. If you see, well, let me just add quickly a background so we can see things better. Yeah. Right. Now, if I were to come over here and just measure this, all right, you can see the width for some reason is 49. Now that's again, not even an even number, forget being a multiple of 4. So what's actually happening over here? Let me explain. Now, if you come over here, here is one where we just have, one number, right? Here we have 22, which is 2 numbers, and here we have 9, which is 1 number. Let's like to understand what is the width of this, right? If I press R on my keyboard, you can see that the width is 43 pixels, right? And now that's again not a multiple of 4. So what's actually happening, right? Where are we getting these weird numbers from? So I'm going to copy this frame, come over here and paste it on top. I'm going to say 1 and 9. I'm going to reduce the opacity as well so we can sort of see this better. All right. And here the padding is 10, right? If we set it to 10, it works fine, right? And the width here is 43. So now again, all of these are inconsistencies where we are seeing that they're not using even numbers and multiples of 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now change this and make sure that I follow the right values. So I'm going to start off first of all by setting the padding to 12 pixel, all right? And you can also come here and apply the right rounding. We can sort of see that the rounding is around 4 pixels, so that's fine. And even the height is a little bit different, all right? We're missing 2 pixels, and I think that's fine because if I shrink this down to 3, it fits, but I don't really want 3 as a number and I don't want the height to be 22. I'm going to set that to 4, and that's fine, all right? I'm going to copy that and bring that over here. And now if I set this to 1,22, we can see what we get. Now, of course, you can see that we are getting a lot more pixels over here, and that's fine. Now, maybe we can even set it to 8 instead, all right? And if I copy this over here and paste it over here, all right, this is looking a bit better. Here we are getting 3 pixels, right? So 8 or 12 doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with 8. I think 8 is fine. And it looks okay. Or maybe, you know what, let's just go with 12. 12 is fine. Now, the next thing is this background color, right? Now, we don't really have a token for this because we need to have a transparent background. So first I'm going to go ahead and create and see what is the opacity value. So I'm going to drop this down to probably 50%. And I think 50% looks like a decent number, if you can see that way. So maybe even, let's say 55. Yeah, I think 55 is sort of the closest. All right. So now I'm going to come here to the fill, create a new variable. All right. Or in fact, you know what? I'm going to do it over here from the variables section. All right. I'm going to come over here in the variables. We're going to go to surface. And now we have surface primary, surface inverted, surface static. And for the first time, we're going to create surface transparent. All right. And like I said before in the previous videos, because we don't have opacity tokens, we have to manually add them over here and drop this to 55. Now in dark mode as well, this is not going to change the color because this is a part of the whole component, right? And the whole component is not going to change color in dark mode, right? So you want to apply the same thing over here, copy, paste, and we can come over here and set this to 55, right? So now this is going to be surface transparent. You can come over here and apply that surface transparent, and amazing. Now here for the content, the text, we can go ahead and apply a static color. Now the reason we have to apply the static color is mainly because that this again will not change color in dark mode. It will be static. So I'm going to come here down to fill, I'm going to search for content, and here we need to choose static. But here is the problem. The problem here is that the static color that we had defined is actually black in light mode, right? So we need an inverted color, all right? And we need a static of the inverted color. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to come here to content and create a new one. So now we actually need a content, inverted and static. We need both, right? But here's the thing. Instead of giving it such a complicated name, because we're using the color white, I'm just going to call it content white, right? I'm just going to call it content white. And here we apply our white color, and here we apply our white color. And that's about it. We're good to go, right? And I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to say content white, and that's it. This is our element. This is our atom. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to rename this to be counter. All right. And I'm going to reset this to 1.1/1. All right. Now here's the interesting thing, right? When engineers are building this component, they are going to think, what is the width of this? Is it going to be hug content? Is it going to be fill container? How is this going to work, right? So they can actually come here to the to dev mode and they can actually see those values, right? So here, if they are checking CSS, and maybe let's go to CSS first. You can see that the display is set to inline flex, right? Now, what does that mean? If I come over here and let's say I set this to fixed width, okay? If I set this to fixed width, which should not be the case, but anyway, you can see here that there is a value called width, which is automatically defined. So this is width is basically like a fixed width of 45 pixels, right? So we're going to come back and just set this to normal. I'm going to say hug contents. All right. And that should be it. Engineers will figure out how this works. Perfect. So now we have the image atom. We've got the counter atom. All right. And now we just have to go ahead and construct the screen. Now, we also have the status bar. Now, there are a couple of things to understand over here. Now, I've already shown you this website called as screensizes.app, right? And if I look at the iPhone 13, right, this is the phone that I have. The height of the status bar is 47 pixels, but the iPhone 10 has a height of 44 pixels. Now, which one should you use? Now, most likely when you're designing screens, you're going to design it for the smallest screen size. And the smallest screen size is usually 360 pixels or 375 pixels, right? Either of those. Now, most companies I've seen, they follow 375, right? If you solve it for 375, it should easily work for 360 as well. That's not really a problem. But 375 is like the common one that we use. But the screenshot that I have here is 390, right? And now what I am going to do in this course is to make sure that I try to replicate this screen, right? So I'm going to press F on my keyboard and I set this to 390 by 390 by 844, right? I'm going to recreate all the screens with the size of 390 by 844. But you should not ideally do this, and you should design it for the smallest screen size, which is 375, right? Now, because I have all the screenshots in 390, I'm making it at 390. But if I was a designer at Airbnb, I would be making all the screens at 375 pixels. So the reason I'm saying this is because the status bar that we have is different for both, right? So in your design system, you will have the status bar for the iPhone 10. But in this case, I'm going to use a status bar of iPhone 13 because it has a height of 47 and because I'm recreating the iPhone 13 screen, right? But ideally in your design system, you need to have the status bar which has a width of 375. Now, Apple recently released all their resources for Figma. So I'm going to come over here and just go to the components section and search for the status bar. I can come over here to status bar and I can just pick the status bar. As you can see, this has a height of 54 because this is for the iPhone 14 Pro, right? But it doesn't matter. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to come back to our design course. I'm going to paste that over here. And I'm just going to sort of set this to 390 and reduce the height to 47, right? It does not do a one-to-one match. If you see over here, it doesn't do a one-to-one match, but that's okay, right? We just need a status bar. In the end, the status bar is not even going to matter because it's going to be created by the phone itself, right? Designers are not going to create the status bar. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to detach this instance and make it a separate component for this file. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say detach instance, all right? And I'm going to double click on this and call this status bar. All right, there we go. Now we've got all of this other things. I'm just going to, sort of make sure everything fits well. All right. And I think we can also set this to clip content. Amazing. Okay. So we've got ourselves a status bar. Turn that on. Now, what about the colors for the status bar? We can add the colors, and I'm going to just not use any crazy tokens because tokens are not going to matter over here because this is a status bar. Like I said, this is going to be defined by the system. But for simplicity, I'm just going to apply this white color. And for the text, I'm going to apply the black color and the icons, right? That's about it. Amazing. Now we can go ahead and construct this. So I'm going to go ahead and make an instance of all of these elements. All right. I'm actually going to do it for the iPhone 10 one. Okay. I'm going to grab an instance of this ticker, of the counter, sorry. Add that over here. I'm going to grab the status bar. All right. And of course, we'll make this 375 for now. Okay. Also, we want the navigation bar. So I'm going to press Shift I on my keyboard. I'm going to go to the components. I'm going to search for the navigation bar. Whoops. Navigation bar. I'm going to bring that over here. The original size is 375, so that's good. And I'm going to remove the background. I'm just going to cut the background. I don't want the title. I'm going to come here and change the icon. So I'm going to come over here and set this to chevron left. This is going to be share. And then this is going to be heart. And there we go. So we've got all of this. Now, of course, we need to put this into a frame and we need to auto layout it and we need to make sure that it works correctly, right? So if I press Shift A on my keyboard, you can see what happens here is that it did something amazing. It took the image that we already had, okay? But if you come over here to the status bar, you can see it's on top, right? When you do auto layout, things don't overlap. But what actually has happened, and this is with the new release with Figma, things will automatically come, and you can see over here, things will automatically be set to absolute position. Now, if I turn this off, you can see it comes below, right? But when you have elements stacked on top of the other, the elements that are stacked automatically get set to absolute position. And that is beautiful. Now, here, I'm going to create another variant of this because we want like a dark mode variant. So I'm going to come over here. And this I'm going to remove change the background to be black. And the other elements, I'm going to make that to be white. All right. And here I can just change the theme. All right. This is going to be light mode. And this is going to be dark mode. Right. Now, this has nothing to do with Figma variables. This is just a variant that I'm using. All right. So I can come here and change this to a dark mode. And I can get rid of the background. All right. And then we want to make sure that these two are touching together. So there is no gap. As you can see, right? There's no gap. Okay, this is good. Now here we have this component. Now here's the interesting thing, right? If I come here and look at the gap, here the gap is around 12 and a half, 13 pixels for some reason. And the vertical gap over here is around 16 pixels, right? So here again, inconsistency. Why is this 12 and why can't we just make it 16, 16? So I'm going to come here and set this to 16. And here we're getting some weird numbers. All right. So, and this number is coming because of this height. Now you don't want to change this because if you change it, it's going to break that aspect ratio scaling. So keep that as it is. And here we make it 16. 16.05 is pretty much, 16, right? Now we can come here, click on this to create a component, and we can call this hero card. Now it looks like we're done, but we're actually not done, because if I scale this, all right, everything needs to automatically scale, right? That's how a component should work. We need to stress test this component. So how do we do that? I'm going to start off with the image. I'm going to click on the image and I'm going to set that from fixed width. I'm going to set that to fill container. Okay. So now if I come over here and increase it, you can see it increases, right? Maybe let me go ahead and make an instance so we can see this better, right? This is working amazing. Okay. Now what about this? Now, when elements get set to absolute position, you can't change this value anymore, right? You can't change it. So how do you change it now? What we can do is we can come here to the constraints and I'm going to say left and right. And what basically constraints is saying that when you say left and right, the gap that you have towards the left, in this case, it's 0. And the right side, the gap that you have, which in this case is 0, always make sure that that gap is maintained, which means we want that gap to be 0 at all times. So now when you see, when I set that to left and right, it changed over here, right? We're going to do the same thing over here, right? Right now, it is set to left. We're going to set that to left and right, and that gets moved over to the right. Here, this one, and you pay attention to what happens over here, I'm actually going to say, anchor it to the bottom. I don't want you to anchor it to the top. I want you to anchor it to the bottom, and you can see it moves to the bottom. And I want you to anchor it only to the right side, right? I want the left width here, the gap over here, to be variable. And this bottom gap and the right gap, I want you to constrain that, which means I want you to keep it to the same value, whatever it is. In this case, it is 16. So make sure it is 16 at all times. So now we can take this and put it on our frame, which is 390. And I can manually come here and set this to 390. And then it works, and it works amazingly well. It perfectly sits. And if I come over here and put it on top, you can see it's just got that, 0.5 gap, but that's okay, right? And this is exactly what we want. I can come over here and change this to 13. And we are good to go. Now, I'm also going to come over here and call this light mode. And I'm going to make a duplicate of this and call this dark mode. Now, for the light mode, I'm actually going to come here and choose surface primary. And I'm going to come here and also choose surface primary. Now, the tokens will not going to change. The tokens name are going to be the same. It's just that in the dark mode, I'm going to come over here and in the layer, I'm going to change that to dark mode. So when I do that, the whole, and maybe we can go ahead and increase the background a little bit. Here, nothing changes because we have defined the tokens in such a way that when we change the mode, the status bar is not going to change. The elevated icons are not going to change. Even this is not going to change. All right. And now check this out. If I come over here, and I select this and I turn off the inverted, it then becomes dark mode, right? Because we defined that in the icon button, anything in the elevated state should be theme agnostic, which basically means it should not change depending on theme. Now, when I change it back here to elevated, it broke. Now, this is a bug, right? This is not wrong with you, right? This is a bug. So if you want to make sure that everything is fine again, you can copy this entire thing, delete, and paste, and it should turn out to be fine, right? All right. And we're good to go. Now, the only thing left for us is to go ahead and document all of this. And I'm going to do that quickly and then show you how it looks in the documentation in a second, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this. I'm going to come over here and paste it here as well. All right. Light mode and dark mode. Night mode and dark mode. And here we have the experiences. We're going to come and make the experiences in the next video. But for now, we're going to go ahead and just focus on these three things. So this is 13. Here it is 1 to 34. So I'm going to make this 34. Come here and make this also to 34, right? And if we want, let's change this here as well. This is going to be 26 and 26. If you want, we can come here and change the image as well. So maybe we're going to come to Unsplash, come here to plugins, and plugins. Yeah, we're going to search Unsplash, run the plugin. Let's search for again a mansion. All right. Yep, this is fine. So I'm just going to click here, and that's going to add that. And let's search for another one, which is nice. This looks nice. I'm going to click on this as well. And it's going to import the image, right? So I'm going to just copy this image. I'm going to delete it and then just replace the image over here. Click on this, paste the image, and then copy this, paste the image. Whoops. We're going to copy this, paste the image, copy this and paste the image, right? And now if you see, it still works. If I select this and I can increase or decrease it, you can see that it adapts really well. And that's what we want, right? So that's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and quickly document this and show you in a second. All right, so I've gone ahead and documented the hero card. And as you can see over here, I've created a new category, a new page called as cards. I'm going to put in all our cards over here. Here you can see I've put in the light mode version and the dark mode version as well. Of course, there's not going to be any change. And I've also put this counter as the local atom because it's going to be used only over here. All right. And I've also gone ahead in the global atoms. I've created this image. I haven't documented this really well because we're going to create the experiences card as well. And I'm going to put in that over here. I'm going to show you how to document that. And then finally, I've created a new page called as native elements or maybe call this native components. And this is where we're going to get all our native components. Even when you're doing biometric authentication, Face ID, notifications, notification alerts, all of these things that are, related to the actual phone and not in the hands of designers, we can put all those native components over here. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment sections down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. And I'll see you guys in my next video. So then take care and bye-bye.